Alright, sorry, I forgot to erase a few things. So, you should have already done pages 2 and 3, and I just wanted to look back at page 3 real quick. Look at number 3 on page 3. Use the distributive property. You got 2x squared plus 10. Awesome. So, our goal today, when we factoring is going back to the multiplication problem. So 2x squared plus 10x, we already know what the answer will be because we have to go backwards to that multiplication problem. So there's the answer. You had the answer, use the distributive property. So basically when we factor, we are just undistributing in a sense, and we are just going back to the basics, to that problem, okay? The multiplication, that's what it means to factor, create a multiplication problem. All right, so I'm gonna just go over this strategy, and if you hate this strategy, let me know and I'll show you another one, okay? But what I do is I look at the numbers, and I think of the multiplication of those numbers, right? Because if we're gonna create a multiplication problem, we need something that multiplies into all, okay? And so that looks like it's gonna be a 2, okay? I look at the multiplication, nothing else multiplies to give me 2 times 1, so I'm done there. Okay, now we have x squared and x, so this one has 2, the one on the right has 1, so they both at least have 1, and I pull that out, okay? After I think through that, then what I do is I go through and I just ask myself, all right, so if I divided out a 2 and divided out an x, what would I be left with? Well, if I divide out a 2, that'll go to 1. And if I start with 2 x's and divide out an x, I'll be left with 1x. Okay, and then over here, if I divide out a 2, I'm left with 5. And if I divided out an x, that'd be 1, but 5 times 1 is 5. Okay, so that's GCF factoring, and then you'll practice that. But you're going to use it in the next ones as well, so I'm going to go over those. All right, so this one, there's no GCF. They don't all have an x. 7 and 10 don't have any common factors. If we thought about their multiplication, nothing would line up. So what we have to do, some teachers call it the glasses method. Some teachers call the leading coefficient A, and then the middle term B, and the last term C. So however your teacher taught it last year, pull those memories back, and maybe the glasses method is what you used, maybe not. But we're going to pull out those strategies and try to break this back up into its original multiplication problem. All right, so what we do is, I'm going to write some steps, is we're going to do A times C. So our A is 1, and our C is 10. And 1 times 10 is 10, right? So then what you're going to do is you're going to find the factors, so the multiplication of 10. So whatever you get here, okay? So that's 1 times 10, 2 times 5, negative 1 times negative 10, negative 2 times negative 5. You don't need to write all 4, and you don't want all 4. You want one of them. So which one do we want? Find factors of this guy right here, but it needs to add to get, negative 7, that middle term, that B term, okay? So, I'm going to add them. 1 plus 10, 11, that's not going to work, obviously, right? Negative 2 plus negative 5, negative 7, yes, those work. So those are our numbers. So with those numbers, we're going to break up the middle term, or the B term. So we'll have x squared minus 2x minus 5x plus 10. And now what we're going to do is back to our GCF factoring, but in parts. So I'm going to break this up in half, and I'm going to look at the first half and look at what they have in common. They both have an x. If we pull an x out, then we're left with x minus 2. And over here, I always bring down this negative sign, and 5 and 10 have a greatest common factor of 5. So then I'm left, and I pulled out a negative, so I'm left with a minus 2, okay? Now these two, we have x times 5x minus 5 times x minus 2. We didn't really create a multiplication problem because we have the subtraction in the middle. So we got to keep going. Both terms have x minus 2 in common, which leaves us with x minus 5. And that will multiply to create this. Okay, let's do it again. So, a times c, multiply a times c. So if you do the glasses method, if you remember, 1 times negative 48, negative 48. But my middle term's positive, so I know that the bigger term will be positive. So 48 times negative 1, negative 48. Okay? 24 times negative 2, negative 48, but that only adds up to 22, not 8. Okay, then 3 I don't think goes in. 4 does. Negative 4 times 12. And then 12 minus 4 is 8, so these are my magic numbers. So I use these numbers to break up the b. And then I just factor by grouping. Pull out what they have in common. Now these both have a subtraction sign, but I'll always bring down the middle sign that breaks up the 4 terms. Always bring that down. And then 48 and 4, we already talked about it. 48 has a common factor of 4. So that will be x plus 12 when we're done. And then we pull out the x plus 12 because it repeats on both terms. And then we're left with x minus 4. Okay, so I'm going to hurry and do 2 more. So first times the last. Got to think what multiplies to give me 18. Too big, that's 19. Oh gosh, just having a 2 times 9. Wow, sorry. 9, 10, 11. It works. It adds up to 11. 9 plus 2 is 11. 9 times 2 is 18. And remember, you use that to break up the middle term. Okay. Now factor by grouping. Oh gosh, there's a 2 there, not a 1 there. Sorry. Okay, notice that factor by grouping. Next term, 9x and 2, nothing in common. So I'm going to bring down a plus 1 as a placeholder, and then I have 9x plus 2. So 9x plus 2 times x plus 1. All right, one more. So the first times the last, which will give us 60. We got to think of numbers that multiply to give us 60, but give us a negative 23. All right. So we have negative 60 times 1, negative 30 times 2, 23, numbers that multiply to give me 60. So does 3 go into 60? Of course. We have negative 20 times 3 gives us 60. 4, we have, it has to be a positive 60. Sorry. Negative 60 times negative 1 is positive 60. Negative 30 times negative 2. Negative 30 times negative 2 is positive 60. Negative 20 times negative 3 is negative 60. All right, so if we look through this list, we get negative 61 if we were to add it, negative 32 if we were to add it, and negative 23. So negative 20 and negative 3. Break up the middle term. All right, so factor by grouping. 10 and 20 both have a multiplier of 10 in them. So that is going to be nice. I pulled out an x as well, right? And then we'll have minus. We pull a 10 out of 20, minus 2. Okay, we're going to pull out a 3 on this one. All right, so we have x minus 2, 10x, where am I? Minus 3, just pulling out the leftovers. All right, there you have it. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions.